Yo, what's going on, everyone? My name is Freds, and welcome to Off the Mark. So, we are basically doing a newest episode, and joined with me today is.
Hello, it's me, Will. Yeah.
Did not say for a second, did you?
Well, yeah, yeah. Context, I'm the new co-host, and yeah, I'm here to wreak some havoc.
Nice. So, obviously, this is the newest episode. We're going to be discussing a show slash manga that obviously both of us like, and hopefully you guys enjoy it, and we'll just discuss it as much as we can. So, what we will be reviewing today is the first season of a anime show called Record of Ragnarok, which is a adaptation of a manga that was released back in 2021. I'm
Yeah. So
assuming.
the show came out on Netflix on 2021.
Yes. So the show revolves around a tournament of the heavens, per se. And let's get more in detail of that. So, the beginning of this show starts off with a few interesting points. So, every single being, deity, god-like figure in human history come together and they discuss whether or not they should eradicate all of humanity from existence. So, this is like any like pantheon member. So this is like Greek, Norse, Egyptian, Hindu, Japanese, Chinese, all of them coming forward. And the head of them is Zeus, the king of the Greek gods in Greek mythology, as you assume. And by the end of this vote, everyone agrees to wipe out all of humanity. But before they can finally put it all down, one of the 13 Valkyries from Norse mythology by the name of Brunhilde, accompanied by her younger sister, the youngest of the 13 Valkyries, Gaul, step forward and announce their plans of how they can let the humans prove themselves and show that they should not be eradicated. And from doing this is the Ragnarok. And the Ragnarok, in a lot of cases in Norse mythology, is the end of the Norse pantheon and the Norse world. That will be replenished after everything's destroyed. This show revolves around the Ragnarok, which is a 13 versus 13 human versus god fight, where you have a human versus a god. They fight one-on-one to the death, and that's basically what they do. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, that's essentially the plot synopsis. I've actually been following it since the end of the first part of season 2, and then I started reading the actual manga.
Yes.
And yeah, it's been good.
So at the moment, the current chapter is 85, isn't it?
Yes, but I haven't been able to properly read the new chapter. I've been able to watch. Yeah, like we've been able to watch videos, but I haven't been able to find because it is out. But of course, like 90% of the series, it isn't really officially translated.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, with that introductions being said, we will now go right into. Do you want to go right into the first fight, or is there anything else you
Okay,
want
I
to
would say
discuss?
go into what leads up to the first fight.
Okay, do you want? You can explain this bit.
Yeah. So essentially, after leaving the Council of Ragnarok, Brunhild is essentially stopped by an incubus,
Yes.
and essentially, I forgot specifically what he says, but essentially he's making a lot of very sexual remarks towards her, and basically she then seemingly complies and gets down onto her knees, and the incubus essentially starts taunting her as oh yeah, so it's really that easy, and she basically says, "No, I'm just getting out of the way," which is where, then suddenly he just gets completely, his top half at least, is completely obliterated by a giant hammer, and walks into frame is Thor.
Whose design is very different to what you would obviously expect.
Yeah, since like I remember, mythology guy at one point said that he looks more Greek than Norse, which I do get.
Yeah, no, he
Yeah,
does.
since his design's very like white and gold.
It's weird because anyone who has watched the series, they will know that the designs are very drastically different to what you expect. Some of them you think, oh yeah, that's who they are, but some of them you're like, okay, who is
Yeah,
this?
yeah,
And
because like the artist enjoys kind of taking some liberties
mhm,
with them, and like they like having a somewhat complicated design, like or like without it being too much.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
Thor's design is perfectly not like in the middle.
yeah. Anyway, so getting to our first fight. So the first fight is the legendary leader of a mighty army during one of the Chinese dynasties is Lu Bu, the flying general. Now, he was real. This is a real like historical figure, and his entrance is him riding on top of his horse, red hair, wrapped in these uh seals.
Yeah, like like he looks almost like he's mummified when he rides in. But yeah, they're like these seals. I think they're burial seals.
Yeah,
I
something like
forgot.
that. But obviously, you can kind of tell this is Lubu because he has like the iconic things coming from the top of his head. I don't know if
Yeah,
they're like
yeah. It's like
fabric.
because it's not his hair. It's
No.
basically like these two long pieces that go down, which is
Mm,
basically iconic when it comes to all, like every depiction of the character, at least.
yes. So obviously the design looks alright. The original design they were going to go for had him being more armored, but in this he's more just wearing like more traditional
Yeah,
Chinese
he looks a bit more like
trousers.
how you describe a berserker type character.
So he's got the tattoos and stuff.
Yeah, and just nothing on his upper half.
So his also a weapon that he uses is his halberd. I believe it is a halberd.
Yeah, yeah, there's a halberd because it's a Chinese halberd.
Yeah, and obviously the announcer of the fight is the Norse god Heimdall. Now, if you've played God of War or watched Thor films, you know who this guy is.
Yeah, and especially if you know what his whole deal and his conception in the actual myth is, it is interesting.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
you will see that there are some inaccuracies from the myths, but there are some liberties that the writers have taken, and yeah,
yeah,
it's not bad. Uh, so his opponent is the one of the mightiest of the Norse, is the god of thunder Thor.
yeah, who we
Who-
of course talked about earlier.
Yes. So Thor goes up against Lubu. Both of them have mighty weapons. Thor has Mjolnir and Lubu has his mighty halberd. Now the fight goes pretty basic. Like it just goes as like pretty like weapon versus weapon fight, and through it you obviously do get some backstory to them about like how certain things happened. So there is Thor. So Thor's backstory of how he had a specific maneuver they used to kill like hundreds of giants that attacked Asgard, and Lubu has he has two. So he has one of when of his death and his life, and another one was how he created the Sky Splitter maneuver.
Yeah, wait, was it Sky Splitter or Sky Eater?
It's either I cannot remember, but yeah. So basically, both of them use their own attacks, and the story like. Do you want to do spoilers, or should we just
I so oh yeah, I just looked up. It's Sky Eater.
Sky Eater? Cool. Do you
Yeah.
want to do spoilers?
So I would say yes, but because we can't really talk about the fights without
Yes.
talking about
Okay.
spoilers.
So basically, during the fight, it's revealed that Lubu's weapon is actually has been turned into a divine weapon by Brunhilde, and the process that she has done is had one of her 13 sisters,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
13 including herself.
I think it's Randgris.
Yes, I think it is. She has put herself forward and has become Lubu's weapon by transforming her soul and body into the weapon in a process called Volander. Now, Volander is just a blacksmith in Norse mythology, I believe.
Yeah, that a Valkyrie had fallen in love with.
So it's not a process that is really in the myths, but they've kind of just added something from the myths as well. So it makes sense. As the fight goes on, Thor loses one of the items he carries, which is one of his gloves of the Yarn Graper. And the Yarn Graper is basically these gloves that allow him to wield Mjolnir. And one of them gets damaged, and everyone's like, oh, he can't use the hammer. Lubu's probably going to win this because he can still use weapon. But instead, it turns out that Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, is actually sentient and wakes up and becomes aware of everything. So Thor takes off the other glove, discarding it, and it is revealed that the Yarn Grapers are actually there to stop Thor from crushing Mjolnir's handle. So with this, Thor is now able to lift it without worrying about crushing it. And the fight goes on to Thor chucking Mjolnir as if it's like a boomerang. So he chucks it by flipping his body all the way as back as he can, chucks it, and it then comes back to him. And yeah, anything else you want to add?
I also say that the ability that you just described was one essentially that is called Gearod.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which wait, did you say what it was either Hugin or Moonin who is on Odin's
Odin's
shoulders.
shoulders.
Yeah, that says what it was used for.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was for the fight against Jörmungandr.
Yeah,
Which,
so he basically says that it's the move that Thor used to take down Jörmungandr.
yeah, which then means that of course it's already happened, meaning that the timelines of accurate mythology Ragnarok is different. So it's kind of up to interpretation whether or not Jörmungandr is actually alive or not.
Yeah. Anyway, so the fight goes on, and obviously it looks interesting. Thor has a large gash across his chest and is bleeding. Lubu then takes a full force of Thor's hammer, and in the process, it crushes both his legs to the point where they're both broken, shattered like internally, and he isn't able to stand. Then Red Hair comes along, helps him get back up, and he decides to use the Sky Eater maneuver. And this is a move that he created that would just split apart the clouds, and it was just an ultimate move. Now, he uses this in a final bid against Thor, and it fails. Thor basically blasts like bits of his arms off, and Lubu just tears both, just decides to tear both his arms off. Well, one of them falls off, the other one he tears off with his mouth. And he's like, I'm going to die, so I'm just going to go charging. He heads straight at Thor, and then Lubu's entire head is blasted off from his body, decapitated fully, and he dies.
Yeah, because it doesn't really necessarily decapitate. It just obliterates his upper half through brute force, and that death in the actual manga is categorized as one of the best showcases of gore.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah, because there hasn't really been that many other showcases of gore to that extent.
Now,
in the rest of it.
So Lubu dies, and his weapon, which is a Valkyrie, turns back into her physical form. Now, what is not revealed until this moment is the fact that when a human fighter dies, their Valkyrie is then also killed, and both the human fighter and the Valkyrie, their souls are extinguished as they're sent to Niflheim. And basically means that they cannot be reincarnated, they cannot be brought back, like every bit of them is now gone forever. And
wait, by the way, so quick question: is it during the first fight or the second fight that the list becomes?
it's the first fight. It's the first fight. It's like halfway through the first fight.
Yeah. So should we talk about what the list is, or should we save that till later?
Actually, let's do it. Hold on, let me quickly get up.
Yeah, I've just.
So this
basically,
list has changed over time.
Yeah, so essentially, Brunhild looks down onto, like, this kind of like it's a phone that she has, and she realizes that every single fighter has been leaked.
Mm.
And so do you want to do the gods or the humans first?
Let's do the gods first.
Yeah.
So the representatives of heaven are Zeus, Buddha, Loki, Apollo, Poseidon, Susanoo, Heracles, Thor, Bishamon, Anubis, Odin, Beelzebub, and Shiva.
And along with the fact that there's also a mystery fighter that is also attached.
Yes, but that doesn't get revealed till a little bit later. Now, the humans who will be representing humanity are Quincy Huang, King Leonidas, Nikola Tesla, Kojiro Sasuke, Jack the Ripper, Adam, Raiden Tomamon, Soji Okita, Grigori Rasputin, Nostradamus, Lubu, Simo Haya, and Kentoki Sakta. Those are the 13 humans that Brunhilde calls her and Heriar 13 god killers, sorry.
Yeah. So I remember when I first saw the list, I was there like, wait, like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Them?
Yeah.
And like, yes, because at the start you're like, okay, this is interesting. And I didn't agree with like all of the picks, but as it's gone on now, I'm like I actually kind of love the picks.
Yeah, well, the next fight is basically Brunhilde decides to choose file number 1. Now, file number 1 is the very first human, this human being Adam. And his entrance is rising off of this giant pillar as multiple animals come about. It's basically like, it looks like what he is on top of in the depiction of him trying to reach his finger out.
Yeah, because they actually showed that image during the fight. Well, during the introduction. Really.
Yes. So, and Heimdall then is about to announce that the next fighter for the gods is Shiva. Now, is then revealed saying, oh, someone else is actually going to be fighting. It's like, who? And he's like, are you kidding me? And all you see is a man in a suit using a violin walk forwards, and everyone's like, wait, Hermes? And everyone's like, is Hermes fighting? And he's like, no, the man behind him. And it's revealed that Zeus is the second fighter for the gods. And Zeus looks like a very decrepit old man with a mohawk and a big beard.
Well, it's not really a mohawk. It's just like this, this tuft of hair at the top.
Yes, it kind of looks like a mohawk at times.
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah. It's not only from the front.
So Zeus is heralded by Hermes, who plays the Slayer of the G String. Yep. Very entertaining song. Actually, thought it was cool.
Yeah, because they even got because of course in the stands there are different humans.
Yes. And so that's one thing we forgot to mention. In the stands there are humans who know the representative of humanity will comment on the fight, and then on the god side there will be other gods who will comment on the god who's fighting.
Yeah, and at this point, it's Mozart that basically recognizes the song.
Yeah. So basically, the fight goes forward, and Zeus powers himself up so that he has this huge, like steroid-looking ass body. It's weird. But he is like colossal, like tall, like he's like towering over Adam, probably about like I want to say he's about like 8 or 9 feet tall at this point. Or would you say
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he's
So yeah,
pretty big.
so
Pretty massive.
Zeus decides that he's not going to use a divine weapon. He's not using his divine weapon. He wants to use his fists instead, as he wants to hear the crushing of Adam's bones on his hands. Adam's Volunteer, on the other hand, is uh, uh one.
Yeah, it confused a lot of people that were in the actual crowd.
Yeah, it's one brass knuckle.
Yeah.
And they explain that Adam is a master of like bare knuckle fist fighting, which, okay, I'll roll with it. It sounds cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah. So the fight goes on. Zeus throws a punch, and Adam dodges it. Now, you realize that Adam has a very special ability. He has divine reflection. Now, do you want to explain what divine reflection is?
So yeah, essentially, it's any attack or movement that he perceives, he's essentially able to copy it. And it doesn't really matter how fast or slow it is. If there's like any form of an instant that he like catches glimpse of it, he'll basically be able to essentially replicate it.
Yeah, pretty much. So he can just copy any move that he sees, since he is designed in the form of God himself. Now, so Zeus keeps getting pummeled, like time and time again, by Adam, because no matter what he uses, if it's a divine axe kick, or if it's just like multiple jabs, like Adam keeps dodging, and then he chucks it all back at Zeus. In this fight, you get the introduction of Ares, who is the son of Zeus and the god of war. And he is entertaining. He's entertaining. He's kind of like a joke in this, but
yeah, okay. He not to begin with, he's kind of like a character where it's like, oh yeah, he knows what he's talking about, and that like yeah. But then over the course of the series, they kind of just made him into a joke character, which is like yeah, and it's like, oh well, okay then.
Yeah, well, yeah, but there is a but. At a certain point, Zeus tries to use the fist that surpasses time, which is what leads into a flashback of how Zeus defeated his father Kronos during the Titanmachne, which is the last battle between the Olympian gods and the Titans. And he used this move, which is the fist that surpasses time, where like time stops and he uses all of his might to have one powerful swing. And he uses this, Adam dodges it, and then uses it back on Zeus, twisting his head completely round. Zeus falls down to the floor, everyone's in shock, and they're like, oh, so the humans win. That's where you're wrong. Heimdall is about to announce that Adam's won, and then Zeus grabs Heimdall and gets back up with his head completely twisted, like facing behind him. He drops Heimdall, says, it's not over yet, and then twists his head all the way back round and says, oh, I was foolish to think that I could actually defeat you like this. So he then decides to start crushing his body, condensing it down to a smaller form, but a more like lean and quicker form, which after the steam and everything clears, reveals a form that he calls the Adamus state, or Adamus. And they explain that this is a form that Zeus takes if he wants to be quicker. And the fight
Yeah, but
goes
isn't it,
on.
so sorry to cut you off, but so don't they also then go on to explain that although it's quicker, but it sorry. I got a sneeze. Oh yeah. So although it's quicker, it also puts like a lot of stress onto
Yeah,
his body, and it
pretty much.
basically and he can't really keep it for long.
No, he cannot.
I said there's also part of it where they said that it's like mostly comprised of like flesh and muscle though.
But obviously, through the fight, you can see Zeus's skin like start to rupture and then repair itself because he can't hold it for too long. This point, you're introduced to another new character, Loki, and Loki is very different to what you would imagine, and he says that both are probably at their limits. Now, this is proven to be truthful when Adam starts bleeding from his nose, and it's real that Adam is actually going at his limit because he's been using the divine reflection for so long.
Yeah.
And Brunhilde realizes that Zeus hasn't been trying to defeat Adam with strength. He's been trying to defeat him with his mind as well, because he's trying to bulldoze his way through the ability so it wears completely down to the point where Adam cannot use it. And it works because Zeus finally leads a punch, like lands a punch that knocks Adam all the way back, and a barrage of fists fly through the air towards Adam as now he's taking damage. And I thought, to be honest, this is actually probably my favorite. This is probably my favorite fight from the first season. And I know you obviously prefer the third fight, and we'll
Yeah.
get into that in a bit. But Adam takes damage, and then in a quick second, it's revealed that Adam then grabs Zeus's head, does a full-on like right hook, and continues to punch. Both of them trade punches, and then after a while, it closes down to Zeus is now on his knees. He's gone back to his original form, just this old man. And Adam is stood up with his fist up to the sky. All the humans cheer. Adam's wife, Eve, and their two sons, Cain and Abel, are just there.
Actually, yeah, I kind of realized we kind of forgot to mention Adam's actual backstory.
Oh yeah. So Adam's backstory is the serpent from the Christian Bible accuses Eve of eating one of the apples. She's taken to the Supreme Court of the heavens to decide her fate, and in doing so, Adam comes in and takes her away, says that they don't need this, and basically says that no one is going to be able to stop him anyway after showing his abilities. So they basically leave. That's kind of the gist of it. That's the short part of it.
Yeah. Something that I do quite like about the fight is that essentially when Loki is talking about their limits, it's essentially what he uses to portray it.
Mm-hmm.
In that essentially both are like glasses of wine, right? But not actually glasses, but essentially not actually glasses of wine per se. But he uses the wine glasses as an analogy. But basically, is where both are filled up to the brim, but each keep on adding a drop more and more each second, and it's essentially which will overflow first.
Pretty much. But so everyone's all the human cheering. They're like, okay, so Adam has now won, and then you realize he's not moving, and it's then revealed that Adam's actually died standing up, and Zeus noticed it way before he fell down. And yeah, Zeus wins this fight. Adam dies, the Valkyrie dies, and it's 2-0 to the gods. And that is basically how the second fight ends. And I do like this fight. It is a strength versus strength fight. And that's pretty much how it would all kind of come down to it.
Yeah. So something that so as I was saying, I kind of forgot that so we didn't really mention the name of Adam's Roland per se. I'm just trying to get up.
Get it back up.
It's Rainleaf
Mm-hmm.
or Rainleaf.
So after this crushing defeat at the hands of Zeus, the humans are down to and need to find some way of getting back on top. When Hilda decides to start eating a lot, we're introduced to a new Valkyrie called Hrist, who turns out has two personalities. And she then gets an alert that the next fighter for the gods has been chosen. And this fighter is Poseidon. And to all those who do know, and to those who do not know, Poseidon is the elder brother of Zeus and is not a thing to like joke about. He is a very powerful deity. That's yes. Anyone who knows mythology knows very well.
So in the actual manga and along with in the show, they do something quite cool for when he is announced, and of course Brunhild is there, kind of like stressing over it. And that basically you just see like his silhouette just standing over her, just with the trident. So because in this Poseidon is quite a menacing figure.
Yeah, no, he is. The silhouette is just him holding the trident. But yeah, so Brunhilde's now stressing on who she would send because she doesn't know who. So she hovers her hand over three names, either Quincy Huang, King Leonidas, and Nostradamus.
Yeah, I think it was. Because I know that the two names because they never really confirmed, but like it's heavily theorized that it was going to be one of them three.
Yeah, very much. So, and she's obviously about to probably pick one of them when a person walks by, looks like an older gentleman, and he puts his hand out, chooses someone else. And he chooses someone by the name of Kyojo Sasaki, who is a samurai from the Japanese history.
Well, he wasn't really a samurai. He was more of just like a
swordsman. He was just a swordsman. But I don't know what era of Japanese history he's from, but obviously he took on like a whole lot of like the best Japanese fighters when he was alive. And there is a film about him where he fights Musashi. But he basically picks himself to go forward. And it turns out that he obviously looks older than in his photo.
Alright, so I just found sorry for interrupting once again. So it said that swordsman who lived during he lived during the Azuchi Momoyama and early Edo periods.
Alright, cool. Now Gull was confused because they're like, so why is this guy old? Like, aren't all of them meant to like come back when they're in their prime? And turns out that when he's older, it's obviously in that moment he's obviously like in his prime, and it's after his death, I believe, that he was actually the strongest.
Yeah, because like they kind of do kind of like a bit of like a loop. It's not kind of like a loophole with Kyojo Sasaki in that he never lived to be an old man. I don't think.
No, he didn't. He died. I don't know.
I know that he died during his duel with Miyamoto Musashi.
Yes.
But essentially he said that he grew into his prime when he was constantly training in the heavens. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's chosen to go up against Poseidon. Now, the arena is now turned into this small, like this smaller, circular area that is surrounded by masses of like ocean or just
yeah,
water.
water, basically.
It's water, but basically uh the door on the god side opens up, the water goes flowing down to reveal someone at the bottom, and they basically stomp their foot down, and the water opens up, splits apart for a pathway for him to walk up. And you can see that whoever this is obviously very powerful, wielding a trident, gets up to the top, and it is Poseidon, who is named the Zeus of the ocean and the most feared amongst the gods. And then it goes to Kojo Sasuke, who enters on a boat going across the water all the way to the island, so the circular like fighting island in the middle of the water, and they obviously name like all the different people that like he's fought against, and they say that he is the history's greatest loser because every single fight he fought in, so whether it was Musashi or any others, he was defeated and lost. And all the people that he fought are in the stadium, like watching him, and they're wondering. And Musashi had the most respect for him, um, from what he says in this, because he continues to like learn like techniques even in death, which is pretty cool. Now it's so it's the god that's never lost versus the human that's never won, which is a very interesting comparison. Now the fight goes on, and Kojo Sasuke gets stabbed through the chest by Poseidon's trident and then dies.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to reveal that he didn't actually die. He just died in his mind because the technique he was going to use failed.
Yeah, and then so the whole thing is that essentially, what they essentially reveal right off the bat with Kojo Sasuke is that it's not psychoanalyzing. It's mostly he's so I got up a quote here. So, within the short span since starting, without any realizing, Kojo Sasuke had already died 18 times.
Mm-hmm.
In that he basically just doing like every single scenario of the fight in his mind.
Yeah. Just every single way that you could possibly have died, he has gone through it, like in the span of like a couple seconds.
Yeah, and like a quote from the character is, "No matter what way I look at it, I'm bound to die."
Yeah. So he sits down and wonders what to do. Now, after some contemplation, they obviously so all the gods are silent, and Gal asks, why are all of them scared? And it is revealed that originally the 12 Olympians were actually 13 Olympians, like the Valkyries. But one of the gods died and was erased from it. That god was someone called Adamas, and he is the older brother of Zeus and Poseidon. And he was murdered by Poseidon. And in this backstory, Adamas was not happy that Zeus rose all the way up to the top to be like the leader of their pantheon. So he devised to overthrow him and become the new king, and he wanted all support. So he went to Poseidon, said to him, look, my plan is to overthrow Zeus. I've got whoever on my side, and I want you to help me since I am your older brother. Poseidon says, no, yeah, it's really pathetic, really. And I'll be honest, my favorite quote from Poseidon
But like, so
is in this scene.
yeah, So the actual quote that Poseidon says, I'm looking for it now. I'm pretty sure that's actually the only thing that he says to begin with.
So he says, "Gods do not raise armies. The gods don't plot. The gods don't help each other. We are perfect from the beginning and until the end." This sums up exactly his ideology. He thinks he doesn't need help. Like, a god does not need help in any fight because, in all aspects, they should just win straight away because they are perfect. Now, I like that because it kind of sums up the ideology of who, like, they all think they are. They are like, not going to lose. I'm perfect in every way. And Poseidon sees Adamas like in a lower aspect because he thinks, oh, like, he thinks like, well, you've just like proven that you're not worthy of being a god. Adamas gets angry, swears at Poseidon, lunges at him, and you then get a glimpse of one of Poseidon's abilities, which is his whistle, which is where he does this whistle that does something in the fight, and in a second, Adamas is skewered through the chest by the trident and is then flung to the side and dies.
Yeah. So I've actually also realized I don't think Poseidon actually does the whistle in the backstory.
He does. I know that for a fact. He does.
Oh wait, actually, yeah.
I know he does the
Wait.
whistle because
Yeah,
I
actually, I
remember
just realized,
every
yeah,
single
I
time
missed
he
a
does
bit.
it.
Yeah, I've just found that part.
Yeah. So Poseidon is then it's then obviously I'm trying to remember if it's basically Poseidon then starts fighting Kojo Sasaki after like both of them start making moves or something. Do you remember what it was?
So, looking for an essentially so.
So it's basically both of them.
Oh yeah, then it just cuts into
Oh, Kojo Sasaki's
Sasuke's
backstory.
backstory. Yeah.
Yeah.
So something I will also say, I've realized that the show does the whistle different to the manga.
Mm-hmm.
In that I've realized in the manga, it's the same thing that we see later on during one of the other fights. Because I'm pretty sure in the manga, it's a hum.
Yeah. Well, so now it's a whistle.
Yeah. So which then means that when we see Hades do it, it's going to be a whistle in the show.
Spoiler: Hades is in this series, and he is
Yeah, and we
he is
basically
my favorite.
yeah, and we basically see him um in some medium,
Yeah.
basically.
So basically, after Kojo Sasaki, his backstory and it like shows all his fights, he then gets up and decides to swing at Poseidon, and he does so. And in a second, he cuts off a small bit of Poseidon's hair, and Poseidon realizes that he's actually been cut, like not on his body, but just on his hair. And he's like, huh, interesting. And finally decides to look at Sasuke in the eyes. And then it's just like, okay, my turn. So he then decides to start walking forwards, which is everyone's shocked because they're like, why is like we didn't know he was going to start walking forwards. Advances and then decides to not chuck, but he basically lunges forward with his trident and does a huge amount of like strikes, which are named after his wife. Um, is it? I think it was named after his wife, Amphity.
So I'm pretty sure that the ability where he does a bunch of strikes
Mm-hmm.
is just let me. So I'm just looking through. Yeah. So it's amphitrite.
Yes. So he uses those, and then Sasuke is basically is like deflecting them, and it obviously like goes more in depth of like what Sasuke's abilities are, like like predicting like the outcome of like attacks and fights. Now, Poseidon realizes that this is not going the way he plans, so he then pulls out another tactic, which is his whistle. Now, the whistle shocks everyone because the humans are like, "What's he doing?" And now the gods are like, "Oh no!" And now what happens is the whistle.
But the move that he actually does is 1,000 image defense.
Yes. So with the whistle, he basically then
Oh wait, no.
charges.
Oh no,
forwards.
never mind. So okay, that's okay. So I looked at it closely. So that's what Kojiro does in response to Amphitrite, and then he does. Then Poseidon starts doing the whistle.
But then he leans forwards and cuts through Kojiro Sasuke's abdomen, making him bleed, making him fall to his knees. And then in that moment, he then looks up and Poseidon taunts him by calling him, I think it was either a little fish or calls him
a loser.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure that's what he says in the anime, but I'm looking at it now. In the manga, he says, "You insignificant piece of shit."
Ah, lovely. So Sasuke then gets back up, and what then follows is just Sasuke not doing good. Poseidon leaps up into the air, does like a bunch of fights, and this then incurs Sasuke to defend himself and cut himself, and Sasuke cuts Poseidon across the chest. Yeah.
So, basically, after that, so what actually happened was the crowd starts cheering on for Poseidon, and he essentially just looks over his shoulder at them, and they all just fall silent.
You sure?
Yeah. And then it just shows, just like how intimidating he is to them. Yeah. And then he essentially just leans forward, then leaps up, then does essentially he then
does maneuver, cuts Poseidon across his chest, Poseidon bleeds, and then in retaliation Poseidon then snaps Kojiro Sasuke's Volander in half.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's with the ability Divine Lightning.
Yes. So so the Volander snapped in half, Kojiro Sasuke's grip in his hands, and then in a twist of fate, it then turns into two shorter Japanese blades that he then uses against Poseidon. And he then starts tracking Poseidon's movements, realizing he's seen all these. And in Poseidon's last attack, which is 40-day flood, which is he is all around, like doing multiple types of like jabs with his trident, he gets caught off guard, and Coach Sasuke cuts off one of Poseidon's hands. Then Poseidon grips the trident in his other hand. Coach Sasuke cuts off that one as well. Poseidon jumps up, puts the trident in his mouth, goes down, and Sasuke basically cuts Poseidon down his chest in like an X maneuver, killing him. Now, this is the first win of the gods. Not the gods,
first win of the humans.
Of the humans, sorry. First win of the humans, meaning that the god that a lot of them fear is now dead. Shocking them all, Zeus is now upset. And it then, that's your favourite fight, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's my favourite fight of
season 1.
First season.
Yeah. So, obviously, in the infirmary, Shiva and Loki are discussing what's going on. Shiva gets pumped up and is like, oh, okay, I'm going to go next. And Zeus like, I'm sorry, I'm going to be really selfish, but a Greek needs to fix this because we are owed blood. And this leads into our next our next fight, which
is the first the first fight of season 2. I meant, but of course we're not covering season 2 today. We're covering season 1.
So, you don't want to talk about the teaser, or do you just want to?
Yeah. We can talk about the teaser, but
So,
yeah, not the actual fight
the
itself.
the human for round 4 requested that the arena looked like the city of London.
Yeah, and if you remember who we said were on the fighter list, you can kind of realize only one of them is actually English.
Yeah.
And
Now,
so
so Heimdall says, basically has a spotlight. You see this figure walking into the arena and says, "In 1888, a mysterious figure struck terror into the streets of London. Did he want to strike fear into the government? Is the heart people? Nay, for some vicious reason." And then it's like he killed 5 prostitutes in his wake, and then mysteriously disappeared. And this figure takes off his mask, and then it goes Jack the Ripper.
So yeah,
And yeah,
and then of course, on the opposite end of the arena, the doors open, and this fairly large red-headed god comes riding in on
a chariot.
Yeah, on a chariot, and he basically wields his club upwards, then plants it into the ground, as essentially Heimdall is essentially talking about all of the accomplishments that this god has made, and then announce the god's name, Heracles.
Yes. So in the anime, they call him Hercules, but it's actually Heracles.
Yeah.
From mythically accuracy,
translation as
Heracles.
Well, that they call
Not Hercules. Heracles, because he's named after. Because they even We'll get more into that because we'll go into a rant. We'll go into an actual rant. But so yeah. That's how they finished season 1.
Yeah.
So
and I think it's a good like ender to kind of tease the next fight.
So what do you think of the first season?
I thought it was decent, but I will say, as we were talking about round 3, I have realized that we did miss a few things.
What do we miss?
Oh, so basically we kind of missed quite a few of the steps leading up to the breaking of Sasuke's Volunda.
Well, it's basically Sasuke mocking Poseidon, saying that it's obviously a very pathetic life for
there's
what
quite
his
a
ideology
few
is.
abilities that lead up to it, and essentially Poseidon just doesn't even do it with like a specific move. He just strikes the sword and it snaps in half.
Is this from the manga, or are you doing this from the anime?
So this is the manga, which is the same as the anime.
Not exactly. I would not say it's exactly the same.
So here's the thing, though. So with the anime, it does, especially with season 1, it follows the manga quite closely.
Does it? I don't think it does.
So it does with season 1.
All right, but yeah. So obviously, not a lot of people enjoy Record of Ragnarok. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
There are some people that enjoy it.
The reason why a lot of people don't usually tend to enjoy it is because of the animation. But yeah, I'm able to look past it just because I enjoy the story.
Here's the thing: we're both mythology nerds. Like, we enjoy it. We like mythology. Like, we know that there are inaccuracies in the show.
Like we have our gripes with
Yeah.
how they portray some characters, but we're not overall upset about it.
But like, we do have to like say the elephant in the room. In any other fights, yes, the gods would win every single time, but they kind of need to downgrade them to make them less powerful. Yeah,
because they kind of had to take away quite a few things from the gods.
That's actually, that'll be a topic for another another video.
Yeah, you know what, let's just talk about what they took away from the gods that showed up in the first season, at least.
Okay.
Yeah, because like, granted, we're lucky that Thor even got Mjolnir.
Because they were originally not gonna give him it, I think. So I actually screenshotted like exactly what.
Yeah, because we know that Zeus wasn't allowed his lightning.
Never used lightning
and
at all.
yeah, and Poseidon wasn't allowed to use his hydrokinesis during the fight, although we know he has it because of his entrance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that like they did end up using some thunder, well, only one thunder-based attack in the actual Thor fight. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So obviously they wanted to depower the gods a little bit so that the humans would be able to actually stand more of a chance. But excuse me. Anyway,
Yeah.
so the final part is yeah, we like it. We obviously are going to continue doing this bit, but that's kind of just the end of the review. If we're probably going to do another episode on like season 2, and then eventually when season 3 comes out, which it should be at
Yeah, it
some
should
point.
some point like later on this year.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably either halfway through or by the end of the year.
yeah,
Since
something like that.
since they have like officially announced that they've like mostly finished
Yeah,
season 3, which I do think they were talking about the first 2 fights because like during animating it, like because they only like said that that is nearly finished after round 9 ended.
yeah. So yeah, so our next episode, what we will be covering is either the next part of this, which will be season 2, or it will be another show that we'll cover.
Yeah, we'll
But
probably
yeah,
do something in between, to be honest.
yeah. But if you do enjoy this, then as always, please like, comment, subscribe. If you've got suggestions, then let us know. And yeah, Will is obviously going to now be a permanent member of this channel. And obviously, I'll discuss in another video, like, obviously, what's going to be different and etc. But yeah, if you guys do like it, as I said, please like, comment, subscribe. And we will see you guys next time. All right. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah. Yeah. See all of you later. Bye bye.
See ya.